I have found lately on the calls that I've been a part of and the clients that I've been working with, we're reaching for a lot more business lately. How do we sort of bring in this? It was almost the Simon Sinek golden circle, as you sort of said it, as you sort of alluded to and drew how you drew it up. Talk to us a little bit about and unpack for us how you can own certain business, compete for business, and then ultimately reach for other business.
We are now in an age of specialization. We are now in an age of being experts in a body of knowledge or in something. So what that means is that when we're creating our strategies going forward, we have to ask ourselves, what part of the market do we absolutely want to own? What do we want to know most about? What do we want people in the market to perceive us as experts in? Because then we get the telephone call. We don't call our doctor and ask him to do heart surgery for a general practitioner. We call a cardiologist, right? Or a cardiothoracic surgeon. We'll go to a brain surgeon. We even with our cars, if some of us drive a Mercedes, we're trying to find somebody who works on Mercedes and not necessarily on Ford or works on just American cars. So what I recommend for most of these staffing companies is, what do you want to own? That's your core. And you make sure that you suck the oxygen out of the room in that area where you're going to own it. You're going to know the players in the space. You're going to know the workers who are in the space. You're going to know everything there is about it. Then as we expand our businesses, we can go out a little bit further, and we can actually start to compete in those environments. And we say, all right, this one is tangential to the business that I own, and I want to compete against this. So when we own a space, we should be winning on a fairly consistent basis because everybody knows that we're really good at it. Okay. When we compete on something, it might be 50-50. All right. We have other competitors in that particular space. They might know it. They might own that space, but we're trying to enter it. So we're not going to win it all the time. We just need to win at 50-50 or, maybe a little bit more. But then there's this reach part, which says this is something that's going to really expand our company. And we're not fully formed experts on it, but we know that we want to go in that direction in the future. And maybe we win 1 out of 10 out of those, but the 1 out of 10 out of those starts to give us experience so we can start competing, and then we can eventually own that space. The problem, Brad, that I see in most companies is that they are reaching for everything. They are grabbing, we could do this, we could do that, we could do the other thing. And then what they do is they end up sacrificing margin, or they sacrifice delivery, or they sacrifice some other core part of their culture in order to reach for everything. And sadly, that's what starts to spiral down and starts to break it down. They start to see their margins erode. They start to see their customer service erode. They start to see their customers leaving or starting to dial down the total amount of volume that they're getting from them. And it's because they're out there reaching for everything instead of understanding and owning their core.
What if there is no business in their core? What if they have to compete or have to reach? Right now, it's very difficult to close job orders, right? That's all I'm hearing on every single call that I'm a part of.
Yeah.
So I feel like inherently, you then have to reach, right? You have to try to find, otherwise the business is going to go out of business, maybe, right? Presumably so. If there really is no local business in the space that you own, what do you propose staffing firms do?
Yeah, so there's that whole thing. This is something that we can actually learn from Silicon Valley, right? Because Silicon Valley has the term pivot. We pivoted this, right? We had this original awe-inspiring idea, but it really wasn't working out. So we pivoted and we became this thing over here. And in almost every successful story that you hear out there, there is going to be some degree of pivot. And when I was working at GE, Jack Welch used to have this phrase that he would pump throughout the company, and he would say, operate in the world that it is, not in the world as you think it is. Okay, meaning operate within reality. And I think the first thing to be able to look at is what is and what is not. What actually is not. What do you hope for it to be? And then as you're starting to say, okay, the area that we own is shrinking and it's getting smaller and smaller and smaller. AI, other things like that are contributing to those types of things. You say, what is the tangent? what is the piece that comes off or is the adjacent to where we're going? And then how do we move to that one over there? And I think one of the things that's a misnomer out there is that people believe that people are adverse to change, Brad, but it's not really true. People are adverse to change that they don't understand or they themselves did not help implement. If you took your team and you just said, look, this market is not really working out for us. We have a culture of learning. I want everybody to take the next 3 months and kind of figure out if we were going to pivot this company, where would we go? The ideas would flow in. Now we've got the culture of learning, culture of responsibility, culture of accountability, and you've got a collective that's determining we owned this, but now we want to compete for some of these things over here and make that pivot.